let's go ahead and get started. This is a really good thing to get into because it's got a lot of first aid potential. When the ears are affected, there's a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. It's something that you want to treat immediately to get comfortable again. When the ears are inflamed, infected, it causes pain, serious pain, and it can also cause imbalance, vertigo, inner ear infections, can throw your balance off. The balance of your head can get off, and then that will just cause vertigo where you can't even lift your head off the pillow without just the room spinning out. It's the ear thing is a lot more than just a minor issue. This can lead to major issues going on. Okay, let's start with ear infections, and then we'll get to hearing loss after that, and just work through the different subjects. All right, ear infections, you can have an inner ear infection, and that if you look at the printout, you'll see that the eustachian tubes in the adults and the children, they went right here in the cheek, and that's where the inner ear infection happens at. And that's where we need to clear it from for that. Dr. Christopher recommends putting a BF&C pack over the ear, not in the ear, over the ear, and then using the B&B tincture along with garlic ear oil. You put the garlic ear oil in first always, and then the tincture in afterwards, so that you don't dry the ear out. The B&B formula, here it is also Dr. Christopher's hearing loss formula, and this is an absolute gift. It's just a wonderful something he put together that's fantastic. I'm just going to read the comments that he has here on it. When the B&B tincture formula was first given to Dr. Christopher by the good Lord, the doctor had prayed for a formula which would heal a epileptic youngster. This particular boy didn't respond to other forms of herbal treatment used by the doctor. The B&B tincture is a combination of 4 very powerful nervine herbs: blue cohosh, black cohosh, blue vervain, skullcap, with the addition of the antispasmodic lobelia. The skullcap was especially helpful for the spinal cord. Its action is slow and cumulative. The others were for more immediate relief as well as for rebuilding the nerves. This formula was given to the child who received blessed relief from his seizures. The formula was used as drops in the ears and taken orally as well. Oil of garlic was put into the ears first to loosen congestion and fight infection. One of the boy's grandfathers had a hearing loss problem brought on by congestion of the ears in old age. He tried the drops in his ears, and within a few weeks, his hearing had improved. Other patients of Dr. Christopher tried the drops of B&B tincture in their ears to banish ear troubles, including hearing loss and balance problems. The formula proved successful in all cases as long as the eardrum had not been broken. It can be used for earaches and ear infection and motor nerve disorders. Okay, that is the B&B formula. We also call it the exact same formula. It's called hearing loss formula. It's the exact same ingredients, the exact same formula, but we call it hearing loss because it just makes it easier for people to know why they have this thing called B&B in their kitchen and which one to be using for what. So, but the hearing loss and the B&B, the exact same thing. When we're dealing with people who have seizures and epileptic seizures and things like that, we send it off with the B&B formula on the label, not to get it confused with hearing loss, so that they will know to use it for the seizures. But it's also the way that this formula works is it actually helps rebuild the nerve connection between the head and the spinal cord. It strengthens that nerve connection and rebuilds those nerves. So it not only clears up hearing loss, but the sense of taste and smell is also restored. I've had clients in my day, members who were doing the hearing loss work and then came and said, you know what, I can taste and smell again. You know, it strengthens all the nerves into the head between the spine and the head. So it rebuilds, and it's used through the ears. These are actually, the drops are put into the ears, and you always do the garlic ear oil first. You don't want to put an alcohol-based tincture into the ear without the ear oil in there first, because it will dry the ear out. Unless you've got swimmer's ear, and then you would use rubbing alcohol and just put a few drops in to dry the ear out after you get out of the pool or ocean or wherever it was you were swimming at. But that's a preventative for swimmer's ear, is putting a little alcohol in to the ear. But on a normal basis, you would want to put the oil in first and then put the drops on top of the oil. But that is the B&B, which is the crux. Just like Eyebright is everything for eye issues, the B&B is the formula that really heals issues with the ears, anything from inner ear disturbances to vertigo to noise in the ears. One of the gentlemen who was proofreading my book years ago, he had clicking sounds in his ears. He had had noises in his ears for years. And I sent a bottle over to him with the ear oil and that. And within a week, the noise was gone from his ears, and he had been putting up with that for years. So it worked really quick, and as far as I know, it's never come back. So it clears. And Dr. Christopher, one of the pages in here, noises in the ears. Okay. There are some people who experiences ringing, clicking, or blowing sounds in the ears. This is indicative of an ear disorder. This occurs for many reasons. There may be damage to the acoustic nerve. The eustachian tube may be too open in the cases of rushing air noises. Clicking could be a result of palatal muscle contractions. Ringing in the ears and vertigo may be due to a disorder in the inner ear. It can be very devastating to feel that the room is spinning around and you can't even raise your head up. The B&B ointment and the the garlic oil are really, really good. The B&B tincture and the garlic oil are really good for clearing these issues in the ear. The other thing, and this is what I discovered long before I knew about Christopher, when my daughter was young, she had really bad ear infections. She'd get them on a pretty regular basis. And one of the other homeschooling moms told me what she did for her kid. And it was that charcoal flaxseed poultice. That's where I got that from initially, what we call the infection poultice. It was given to me by another homeschooling mom for my little monster's ear infections. And it worked. Overnight, it just cleared those ear infections. I mean, and they're so miserable. The thing that you need to know, and the instructions on how to do the charcoal flaxseed poultice are on the infection info sheet, which is there on my blog with the rest of this. So I'm not going to get into the details of how you make the poultice, but I will tell you, you always treat both ears. Even if only one has the infection, you make 2 pouches and you put one over each ear. And then what I like to do is I take a pair of pantyhose and turn the pantyhose upside down, put the seat over the head, and then use the legs to tie around. And it keeps the poultices over the ears. And don't laugh. The reason I like the pantyhose is because they don't constrict. You use an ace bandage, and ace bandage can get tighter. And you do not want to strangulate your child or yourself while you're sleeping. As we all know, pantyhose
I'm
droop.
laughing at the visual. I'm laughing at the visual of what that must
Yeah.
look like.
I hear you. Yeah, your kids get to play boogeyman. They love it. I mean, the boys will have the thing pulled down over their head, and the kids just they have a good time once the warmth calms them down, and the warm poultice, because you put this poultice on as hot as can be tolerated. So the warmth over the ears, the children just calm down, and it's very comforting when the poultice goes on. What you want to do when you're putting it on a child is you put it on the inside of your arm, and as soon as you can tolerate it there, then go ahead and put it on their ears, because you're making that poultice hot on the stove. You're cooking, boiling the charcoal and flaxseed and making, the poultice, and you put it on the cotton material, fold it over and make the pouch, and then you're going to put those on the ears. Well, make sure you can put it on the inside of your wrist before you apply it to those kids' heads. You don't want any blisters coming up. It needs to be okay. So use it on yourself first, and as soon as you can apply it to the inside of your wrist without discomfort, then go ahead and put it on their ears. Don't let it get too cool or it won't be good, but you need to show some caution when it's not your head that you're putting it on. And I have seen that one of my housekeepers, she had a little girl and they were getting ready to put tubes in her ears. And I've told this story many times, so if you've heard it, just ignore me. Her mom was at the house cleaning up, and I had all the stuff there to put it together. So she just went ahead, and her girls were homeschooled, and so they were doing their lessons. I was in the office. It was when we had an office downtown. And so she would make lunch, bring it to us, and then go home, and that was the end of her day. And so she calls me and tells me what happened. Her little girl had an ear infection, so she just put the poultice together and put it on her ears. And she comes to her mid-morning and she goes, "Mommy, my brains are coming out my ears." And it was the poultice, which is dry. It is not a sloppy poultice. It gels up really well, and it's not drippy. But it was completely soaked, and it was dripping onto her shoulder. And probably what she felt was the suction of the fluid being pulled out of the inner ear. And it probably was an itch, and then the suction just as it was pulling the fluid out of the inner ear. And so the poor little thing came to her, "Mommy, my brains are coming out my ears." And it was just the fluid coming out, and it cleared it. She didn't have to have tubes put in her ears. It cleared the fluid out of her inner ear. That's the only case of that I've ever seen. I don't know if other people have used it for that and whether it worked or not, but it worked for her. And I would definitely not discount it. It's going to cause relief no matter what. It's going to pull the inflammation out and relieve the pressure and open that up so that it doesn't hurt so bad. But for ear infections in children, if you're dealing with swimmer's ear issue, when they get out of the water, just put some rubbing alcohol, 2 or 3 drops in each ear, and that will dry it out so that the ears do not become inflamed from the swimming. And if they do, the charcoal flaxseed poultice is great. The other thing, like I said, habitual stuff, when there's been long-term infections in the ears and that, I would go ahead, because you probably got some damage in there. I would use the B&B tincture and the garlic ear oil and just repair and heal that in there so that there's not issues later on in life.
Dora,
go ahead.
Is the ear oil, the garlic oil, is that just over the counter?
No, we actually make it, or you can make it yourself. It's very easy to make. We put mullein in ours, and if you get a hold of some mullein, you can throw a little bit of mullein in it too. But just put your garlic in your blender and top it off with olive oil and just blend it smooth. And then get your 60-40 split, just like you would when you're setting a tincture. And so add a little more oil until you get your 60-40 split, 60% sediment, 40% oil sitting on top. Let it sit on your counter for 30 days. You don't even have to let it sit that long. It's usually it's pretty powerful right away. If you have a dehydrator, just send that through the dehydrator for 3 hours at 150 degrees and you've got your ear oil. If you don't have the dehydrator, you can just leave it sitting on the counter for a while. I like that. I just make the olive oil with the garlic in it and keep it in the refrigerator and add that to salad dressings. And when I'm stir frying something, it's great for cooking. So you may not want to put the mullein in it because that would ruin the cookability with it.
Okay.
But you know, adding the mullein, it's like one of the master herbs for the ears. Mullein really helps with that. And you want the stalk, the flower is where, you know, that stalk that grows up in the middle of the mullein. You don't want the leaves so much as you want the stalk for the ear oil. If the leaves will be of some value, but the stalk is where the real value is for the ear oil. But if you don't have that, just put the garlic in. I mean, you can make that yourself and then just pour off the oil into your little bottle for the oil and then keep that and then cook with the rest. It's really not difficult to make, but we do have it here for those who just shy away from doing it, or some people, they just want to see what it's like before they make it themselves to make sure they're getting it strong enough or whatever. But it's not hard to make. And now I wouldn't buy it from the store. Who knows what they've done to that? That kind of stuff always makes me nervous. Or even if they might just whisk a little garlic through it, and you know, who knows how much they've even got in there. But any questions on ear infections? I mean, it's all pretty cut and dried stuff. And of course, you would be doing the infection protocol orally with the infection formula and the echinacea. That would be added to the infection work for serious infections. I mean, if it's just a quick one and it's cleared up overnight and it's done, if you feel that there's more stuff in the kid's head or in your head, do the infection work. You know, add the herbal antibiotic, infection formula, echinacea, you know, whatever. If it seems like your head just has more issues, but you've got the ears cleared, then do more. But if that just clears it up and it's over, you're done. I mean, you don't have to do the tinctures if that just pulls it out and it's over.
I have a question.
Yes,
You
Genevieve.
mentioned noises in the ear is a ear disorder. How do you get the noises out of the ear?
Oh, the hearing loss regimen. And we'll get into that in just a minute. I wanted to handle everything else before we got to the hearing loss routine.
Okay.
But yeah, that's part, you would be doing the hearing loss regimen, just like you would when you're trying to restore your hearing. Okay, he has several other suggestions in here for earache. Putting an onion over both sides of the, warming an onion, and then putting that on the ears. That's also great for mastitis and issues like that in your animals. A mommy cat or dog that won't nurse because their teeth are inflamed, they have mastitis, you can just strap an onion to them, warm it up, you kind of boil it in the water and then you just strap it over there. It works really good for that. With having the charcoal flaxseed, I don't know, I'd put it on somebody's ears. It's just not something I would use because there's other things I think that work better and aren't quite so messy. But when it comes to mastitis on an animal, I would not pass up on the onion. It works really well. Just keep that in mind for that. Okay. Trauma to the outer part of the ear, BF and C salve, just pack that. Cauliflower ear, you know, when somebody's got real bad trauma to the ear, just go ahead and pack that with BF and C, and that will take care of the issues with that.
How long do you do the pack? If it's cauliflower ear, how long do you do the pack?
Basically until the inflammation goes down. I mean, you would want to be applying this immediately, you know, after the damage was done. If it's down the road, it could take a few weeks to a few months if the damage will clear up and if it will go back. I've seen BF&C do miraculous things, you know, for clearing up abnormalities in the bone, flesh, and cartilage. So whether or not it will heal an old issue, I don't know. But you use it right away, you know, right after the accident or damage is done, and it should clear it up completely. You would just put that over the ear, the flannel and with the salve on it, and then just plaster that over it and leave it on all night. And take it off during the day so that it can breathe and the oil can absorb in, so you don't end up with excess oil. Also, ear candling for excess wax. Any of you have any questions on ear candling or any reservations on that?
I just want to make a comment. I was introduced to ear candling quite a long time ago, and it's really amazing the substance that the candles draw out.
Yeah. It is. It actually works really well. I would not just do it. It can be, it's not rocket science. You can do it, but you have to, I would find a video or something and really get some instruction on doing the ear candling. But for serious excess wax in the ears, and my husband, a few years back, he got a cold and it settled in his ears and he couldn't hear. It actually blocked one of his ears completely closed. He could not hear out of that side of his head. And we did the hearing loss stuff to loosen everything up, and then we candled him. And we actually got some results with the candling to pull that excess waste out of the ears. I mean, we had put the charcoal flaxseed poultice on that. We'd done all that. It was like he had a head cold and it just settled in his ears. And it was just blocking everything up in there. He could not hear out of the one ear. And it took us probably a month to get that thing open. It was really a problem. But the candling was very useful in that. And yeah, it can be dangerous. It's not something that you want to just mess with without knowing what you're doing. But it's definitely useful. So don't let people discourage you from it. Just find out how to do it. And there's plenty of videos out there showing how to do ear candling. Okay. All right. Well, other than a ruptured eardrum, if you do have a ruptured eardrum, you do not put anything in the ear. When the eardrum has ruptured and there's a tear in the eardrum, unless you want to be in extreme agonizing pain, you put no drops in that ear, nothing in the ear until it's healed. You can put a, Christopher says to put the fomentation of BF&C, so the BF&C pack over the ear, but you put no drops in the ear. It will cause agony pain. It's not a good idea, and it will not help the healing at all. So for a ruptured eardrum, and they will heal, a ruptured eardrum can be healed. It will just, the BF&C speeds up the healing quite a bit, so it will heal really fast with the BF&C in there. And but just remember, if the eardrum is ruptured, you do not put any drops of any type in the ear. You just put BF&C packs over the ear itself. All right. Reasons for hearing loss: ear infections, cold, congestion, nerve damage, and injury to the ear all contribute to loss in the of hearing in the ears. For 6 days each week at night, you're going to put 3 drops of the oil, 3 to 5 drops of oil, and then 3 to 5 drops of the B&B formula in your ears, the hearing loss formula in the ears, and plug them. Then you put the cotton in the ears, and you just spend the night with that. On the 6th day, you're going to flush the ears gently. You do not power flush. You just squeeze gently with the ear syringe. And I would have my head down this way, not, you know, over where you're really putting the pressure into it, but just where it can drain with the little ear syringe. And with a mixed 50-50 mix of apple cider vinegar and water. and you just flush the ears out with that. And you do that on day 6. On day 7, you rest from your program. So on the Lord's Day, you do not do any drops in your ears, anything at all. You just allow the body to rest, and then you start back up and do it again. It's going to take time for those nerves to heal. Nerve tissue is one of the slowest growing things in the body. One of the slowest things to heal is nerves. So you're looking at 6 to 9 months sometimes of work, where you just keep up this routine until the nerves actually heal and are restored. Some people it's quicker. It's 3 months or less. Most people it's 6 months, 9 months. You're going to want to do 6 days a week. You put the drops in the ears for 6 days a week. On day 6, you flush the ears with apple cider vinegar and distilled water, warm. The first time I ever did this, I got really dizzy. It was like it made me really heady. I already had vertigo issues. And when I put that warm water into my ear, I all but passed out. I had to have the cayenne right there. It was a good thing that I had a bottle of cayenne in the bathroom, because if I hadn't, I would have been on the floor. It made me really, really heady. And I had been dealing with vertigo issues for quite a while, and those have cleared up now. But this was like, 15, 20 years ago, the first time I did the hearing loss routine. And I was doing it mainly for inner ear issues because of the vertigo. And flushing out my ears on that, it was really dramatic. So I would say if you've never flushed your ears before, have a bottle of cayenne right there. It will just put your head right back on your shoulders. If you start feeling woozy and dizzy, just take a good strong hit of cayenne, and that will take care of that problem. You can finish doing what you're doing. But I was not expecting to get hit with that wave of dizziness when I flushed my ears. It was a surprise. Okay, there are a few drugs that contribute to hearing loss. Christopher talks here. He says, it has been proven that certain types of drugs, including aspirin, can cause hearing loss. Antibiotics, there are antibiotics, and I can't pronounce these, so I'm not even going to try, but they're in the written material, can contribute to deafness. He's got 3 different kinds here. Remember, he passed away in the 80s. So whether or not they're still using these, they probably are to some degree. The side effects of inorganic drugs take their toll on the body. This is why we prefer to use herbs and food which operate synergistically in harmony with the body. So just be aware that aspirin use does contribute to hearing loss.
I know it's not the topic of this class, but since you brought up
That's okay.
headaches, does the nutrition sheet that you mentioned, does that cover what alternatives to use in headaches, or what do you recommend?
I do have a headache info sheet, but I can quit migraine headaches. I can't remember what it's called. I think it might be headaches. If it's a muscle tension headache, use the M&L salve. That's going to relax those muscles for whiplash and other issues where the muscles have become constricted and it's cutting blood flow off to the brain. The M&L salve, the Mullen and Lobelia, is an antispasmodic which will relax those and just ease them off. So, you can use it anywhere on your head that you need to, just rub it on there, and it works really well. If it's a toxic headache because your bowels are backed up, you ate some really stupid stuff, whatever, sugar, that's really, really bad idea. And it's a toxic headache. What you can do is you want to get the blood out of your brain and get fresh blood in there to relieve the headache. You put your legs up to the knees in hot water, and you get a towel, you get it wet, and you wring it out, you fold it in thirds, and you put it in the freezer and let it freeze. And then you wrap that ice towel around your head while your legs are in the hot water. And you drive the blood from your head and you're pulling it to your legs. and that will often dissipate a headache. Now, my husband gets really, really bad headaches, and he's a big baby. And I cannot get him to sit there where I can wrap his head or anything. I end up putting him in the bathtub and just a little bit of hot water in the bathtub. And then I'll put the ice pack on his head. And that he will tolerate. Otherwise, he gets too grouchy and I can't do anything to help him. But the ice pack to the head and the legs in hot water, it pulls the blood from the head so that you're getting fresh blood in there. Now, that's not going to do any good if your blood is just full of garbage. You know, you need to not put the garbage in so you don't have garbage in your blood, but that will clear the toxic blood from the brain and get an opportunity for fresh blood going in with hopefully better stuff in it. One of the biggest causes for toxic blood to the brain is constipation. If the bowels are backed up, all that blood is cycling through the bowels and carrying all that putrefaction up to the brain. And so you're carrying a cesspool in your gut when you're constipated. So you got to clear the constipation. Constipation is also one of the biggest causes for asthma issues, breathing problems, asthma issues, all that. You clear the bowels, get the bowels working well, you'll be amazed at how many of these little things just start going away. And the headaches will go. Another cause for headaches is the artificial sweeteners. I found this out when I was in college. I was having really bad migraines. I was 23, 24. My husband and I had been dating for about a year or so. And every day after class, I would come home and his mom, she babysat my daughter. And so I would come there and do my homework until his classes were finished because we were on a different schedule. And she would make lunch for us. And it would be a cheese sandwich. And no, I was not doing really well back then. I was still learning what I needed to do. She would make us a cheese sandwich and then a cup of iced tea. And my tea, I always had just plain. I didn't put any sweetener or anything in mine. But she ran out of my kind of tea one day, so she made me hers. And I drank that, and it had NutraSweet in it. And I had been headache-free, not realizing that it was NutraSweet that was causing my headaches. We had a real hard time finding it, but that was the only change in my food program. So we were able to pin it down to the NutraSweet. And I called my dad. My dad was a biochemist, and he understood all this, but I didn't even know what questions to ask him anything. And I called him and I told him what I thought was going on. And he says that would make sense because NutraSweet, in some people, it will make your brain swell. Ooh. And it would take 24 hours. It was 24 hours from the time I ingested the NutraSweet, almost to the minute, until the migraine would set in. So it was very hard to pinpoint where the pain was coming from because it was 24 hours after I would eat that piece of gum or I would, have that soda or whatever. It was 24 hours down the road before suddenly I would just have this horrific headache. And I mean, it was a banger that would just incapacitate me for days. I was living on barbiturates back then just to be able to function because I couldn't figure out what was causing these headaches. And once I cut the NutraSweet out and don't touch the stuff, they're gone. No more headaches. And of course, constipation was another one, but that was minor compared to the NutraSweet headaches. So artificial sweeteners are poison. You don't want to mess with them. They're just bad stuff.
The question was, I've worked on tugboats. I'm retired now, but worked on tugboats for quite a few years, and that's really an extremely noisy situation, and so you can't get away from the noise, and so I've got tinnitus, which to those that don't know what that is, Sounds
It's,
like I'm around power lines all the time. The buzzing you've heard around power
Yeah.
lines, that's what I hear in my head 24/7.
Yeah.
So the regular doctors would tell me that it's incurable. You just have to live with it.
No.
But from what I'm gathering, that's not the case. So
No, it's not. One of my editors, you may have come in after we talked about that. One of the editors of my book, when my book was being published, had tinnitus really bad, and he'd had it for 4 or 5 years or better. And one of the other women told me about his issue, so I sent the regimen over to him, the hearing loss regimen. He did it, and in a week, his tinnitus was gone.
wow. Okay,
And
that's awesome.
now I don't know what kind he had. You know, I don't remember him saying, but yours sounds like an acoustic nerve issue.
Yeah, I really don't have any hearing loss per se. You know, as we get older, we lose a little bit, and that's what
Yeah,
I
that's
may have. But
deterioration of the nerve
yeah,
to
but
the
what
brain.
I have, what I have is just constant buzzing 24/7. And when it gets really
Yeah.
quiet, like when you lay down at night, sometimes it can make you almost want to go insane because you can't get away
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah, that sounds like it's probably the acoustic nerve damage,
Hmm.
which would be from the noise issues. And I would say that I would honestly expect the hearing loss regimen to clear that up.
The ratio for the garlic to the oil, that went through quickly. Could you repeat that, please? So like how
Sure.
many bulbs of garlic oil? How
Well,
many
what-
cloves?
Okay, that it's not a way that you want to measure it. What you do is you put the garlic in your blender and you chop it with olive oil. So
Uh-huh.
you put the peeled garlic into your blender, and then you chop it with olive oil. You blend it smooth like applesauce. Put it into the jar that it's going to set in. Let it settle overnight or for a few hours, and then add oil to the top of it so you have a 60-40 split. 60% sediment on the bottom and 40% oil sitting on top. And
Okay,
it will
got it.
depend on how much you're making, what jar you put it in. You know, that's the batch that you make will determine, you know, how much it is. But that will give you your split and your good thing. And if you have the mullein, I would do 1 part of mullein to like 4 parts of garlic.
With the vertigo, are you saying, you also mentioned using cayenne?
Yes, cayenne is the 911 for when you get vertigo. When your head is spinning off and the room is tilting and is not supposed to, you want cayenne. And you can just take that, and it's not even going to be hot. I mean, when you're in crisis, it doesn't taste hot. It goes down really well. But your hot lemonade is one thing. If you do have vertigo issues, you probably want to just get used to using it and do your hot lemonade once or twice a day.
And the hot lemonade is the lemonade with cayenne and apple cider vinegar.
Right. And a little maple syrup if you can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really good. I mean, anytime you've got circulatory issues going on, that's a good one to be using.
Another thing, I scuba dive. So what about divers that have had problems? Well, let me back up here. The rule of thumb when you go away, in my case on vacation to go scuba dive, I would fly to the Caribbean. Well, you can't dive for 24 hours
Right.
when you get off the plane, and then you can't dive for 24 hours prior to leaving as well, or you'll have some issues there. There's nothing that's really going to help you cut corners on that or save you on that. And then the other part of the question is guys that have ruptured drums or damage from diving. Is this also going to help them as well?
Yeah, the ruptured eardrums. I had addressed the ruptured eardrum. BF&C packs over the outer ear. You don't put anything in the ear on a ruptured eardrum.
Mm-hmm.
You never put anything on that. It will just be hugely painful and not productive at all. So you put the BF and C pack over the ear and just, let it absorb in, and then you can take it orally also. And
Okay.
but that will speed up the healing and speed up as soon as the eardrum is closed and there's no more hole, you can put the B&B and the oil and all that in there. But as long as there's a hole in that eardrum, you cannot put anything in the ear at all.
So there's good news for people that have ruined their ears from diving, that they can get back to diving after they heal.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, the eardrum can regrow. It will heal.
Okay.
It will regrow. As far as I'm taking it that the reason that you cannot fly for 24 hours or dive for 24 hours is because of the oxygen that's in the blood.
Yeah.
You don't want to clot and
Get
all that. And
nitrogen and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, you got to get normalized again. The only thing that might speed that up would be using cayenne.
Okay.
And I wouldn't guarantee that, but I would say that it's probably definitely going to make sure that you don't have issues going down.
Yeah.
If you've been 24 hours and it will definitely ensure that you can dive within 24 hours. But I wouldn't push the rule. I would stick with that rule.
Yeah,
of,
no, I wouldn't want, I'm not really into the breaking the rules. I was just kind of curious. Say if you're on vacation and you had an emergency when you just got there, or you had to dive, or you were diving and you had an emergency and you had to fly home early because of somebody or something, you didn't have your 24 hours. There's no way to herbally cheat that. Then it's really not advisable. It probably, because like you said, you do have to off gas the nitrogen and stuff in your blood.
Right, and you're going to end up making blood clots and exploding your lungs. I mean, I don't have a good picture in my head. Normally I can get kind of a picture of view of what's going on, but I'm not all that familiar with that. I have an understanding of diving and of, that you're taking all this extra in and you've got to allow it to process out. Like when you come up from really deep, you have to come up very slowly.
Yeah.
You can't just rise to the surface. You have to depressurize on your way up. And if you do, you'll come up too fast, you'll end up with the bends and be in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you don't want to do that. And my concern is that you've got to, just like you got to depressurize, and it takes time to do that. I can't see any way to clear that. Cayenne may be helpful. I mean, if you're in a place where you get airlifted or something, or something happens like that, I would be taking cayenne like crazy just to make sure nothing really bad happens, because it will prevent clots or anything from, it will just keep everything moving well. In an emergency like that, I would be downing the cayenne.
Yeah. Yeah, because
that would be your best safeguard.
Yeah, because there has been emergencies. We call them screamers, because that's what they end up doing. That have to say they got a day of scuba diving and then they got cut or hit by a car and they had to be medevaced from an island back to somewhere. Then they're screaming the whole way because the oxygen and nitrogen and everything's just insane. So, but that's good to hear that it actually heals the drum. So, I can share that with people that have ruined their ears or know people that have from coming up too fast or going down too fast.
You can, if you get the printout here, it's just a little blip on it, on healing the eardrums.
Okay.
The holes in them. Christopher knew what he was talking about. I mean, I would follow his directions in 2 weeks, and we will be dealing with cholesterol, probably blood pressure. We'll just see how this comes around. There's quite a few twists and turns we can do with the cholesterol as a subject. So we will deal with that, and how you get rid of it, and what we can do to have good, and what is normal cholesterol. Believe it or not, that is really hyped up out there. There's so much money behind the cholesterol medications.
Yeah.
There's a lot of BS floating around on cholesterol, and hopefully
Mhm.
we'll just sort it all out and see where the truth is and where it's not.